want to welcome you out today. We were kind of talking a little bit about the poll results, and apparently this is a class a lot of you want to see. We were kind of surprised that more than 60% of you have been using MetaStock for more than 2 years. So thank you for that. As always, we really appreciate that. 20% of you have had MetaStock for less than 6 months, and 20% of you haven't made the decision to buy MetaStock yet. And I would encourage you to try it out. It's a great platform. But I digress. So today's guest speaker is somebody that I know very, very well, actually. And I want to thank him for initially hiring me into MetaStock almost, well, I would say 20 years ago, and then some months. In March, it'll be my 20th year. And I remember it took a little bit of chasing him around to kind of convince him that I was going to do the job well. But he was also my boss, I think, for 10 or 12 years. So he's a good guy. I enjoyed working for him. He obviously, as the introduction just kind of talked about, he was my boss for a good chunk of time. And I've been threatened to tell stories about him, but I think I'll save those for another day. In any case, he's been doing the learnmetastock.com for several years now. I'm going to guess it's 7 or 8 years, maybe even longer than that, because it's amazing how time flies. But let's go ahead and bring you on here, Kevin.
Thanks, Jeff.
And I'm going to go ahead and turn is there anything else you want to add about that as an introduction for you?
Oh, no, that was great. Thank you very much. I appreciate the introduction. I appreciate you holding off on any stories, so I think we're good there.
You should have the do you want to share your screen icon show up. I can see a web browser that is your learnmetastock.com website, just to make sure that's the screen you wanted to share.
Yep,
and
perfect.
I have a huge tendency to just get out of the way, so I'm going to turn the time over to you, and I'll be here if you need me.
Okay, great. Thanks again, Jeff. I appreciate it. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. As Jeff pointed out, my name's Kevin Nelson, and I'm the owner and the president of LearnMetaStock.com. As Jeff said, I actually worked for MetaStock for quite a while. I worked for him for 15 years, and during that time, I did a lot of different things. I did seminars and trade shows and webinars. I mean, you name it. And one thing that was pretty consistent throughout that entire period of time, people are always looking for more help with the program. And so based off of that, that's why I started this company, this LearnMetaStock.com. And our goal is just to help you with your MetaStock program and make sure that you're getting everything out of it that you want to get out of it. So, and also I see that Jeff put up a little poll there to kind of find out how our users are, what kind of users we have attending today. And it looks like most of the users we've actually have the program for more than a couple of years, but then we also have some newer users as well, and we also have some users that haven't purchased the program yet. I do want to point out that this class is going to be a little bit of an advanced class. I wasn't really sure which class I wanted to do for you tonight, but I thought I'd go ahead and do this advanced class. We're going to be doing a little bit of formula writing and everything else. So if you don't own MetaStock or you're not that familiar with the formula language, if you can suffer through this, worst case scenario, at least this is going to show you some of the different capabilities that this program is capable of, to say the least. So, but as always, if you have any questions too, make sure and let me know. I think you have a way to actually enter a question to the chat, and then I'll kind of keep an eye on that. And then at the end of today's presentation, then I'll be more than happy to go ahead and answer as many questions as I can. All right, so our website again is learnmetastock.com, and if you have any questions about the site at all, again, like I say, just let me know. But so to get started, our class today is going to be on the Expert Advisor, and again, it's going to be the advanced version. So it is going to be a little bit more advanced. We're going to be doing some formula writing and so forth. So my game plan for today is, what I'd like to do is I'd actually like to create an Expert Advisor literally from scratch. And what we're going to do, if you're going to create an Expert Advisor from scratch, first thing you need to do is you need to decide what indicators you want to use inside the Expert Advisor. And then you need to figure out how you want these indicators to be displayed inside the Expert Advisor. You have a lot of different choices there. And once you figure that out, then of course, then you can go and create the Expert Advisor itself. But before you even do that, you really need to kind of decide on what the system is or what your trading idea is going to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go at it with kind of a three-pronged approach here. And we're going to use three different things here to create our expert advisor. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to identify a trend. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to use a moving average to do that. And I just want to identify if it's generally bullish or generally bearish. And then once we do that, then we're going to create another indicator based off of a swing indicator. And this is going to help us trade in the direction of those trends. So in general, what we're going to be looking for is that if the trend is bullish, we're going to be trading in the bullish direction. If the trend is bearish, we're only going to be trading in the bearish direction. And then finally, I'm going to use another indicator to help pinpoint the actual entries and exits in and out of the trades. So to get started, what we're going to do for the trend itself is, again, we're going to use a moving average. There's a lot of different ways you can use it. You can use, as many different types of moving averages, numbers and so forth. But again, I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible for this example. And what I want to do is I want to use the moving average or have it displayed in the ribbon of the expert advisor. So to get started, let's go ahead and just open up a chart here. And for this example, I just have a chart here of IBM, and you can see IBM has gotten really beat up here over the last, since around the first of the year here, but I think this will be a pretty good example here for what we're trying to do. So the first thing I want to do here is I just want to plot a moving average here on our chart. So from my indicator quick list, I'm going to grab a moving average and I'm going to drag it directly on top of the prices. And for this example, I'm going to use a 30-period exponential moving average. I'll click on OK. And how I'm going to identify bullish and bearish conditions is I just want to identify a bullish condition as the closing price of the security to be above the moving average. And then vice versa, for a bearish side, I just want to identify when the closing price of the security is below that moving average. All right? All right. So now that's our first step, and what I want to do is I want to create a ribbon for this. So to get started, I'm going to open up our expert advisor, and I'm going to start by clicking on the new button over here on the right hand side. Now to get started, I need to give it a name, and one thing I like to do with any formulas that I create or systems and so forth, I like to put a wildcard at the very beginning of the name. That way all of my formulas and everything get grouped together, and it's a little bit easier for me to keep track of everything. Because otherwise what you'll find is that these things will get sorted alphabetically, and it's pretty easy to kind of lose track of them. So I'm going to just call this my expert advanced class. Whoops, if I can type here. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to go to my trends tab here, and you'll notice I've got a bullish and bearish box here. What I want to identify as a bullish condition is where the closing price is above its moving average. So to do this, this is where we're going to get into the formula writing here a little bit. And again, if you don't own MetaStock or you're kind of new to the formula language, I apologize a little bit, because again, this is going to be a little bit more advanced, but we do have a lot of help for you if you want to learn more about it. But to identify if the closing price is above the moving average, the data array that we're going to identify is just the close of the price itself. And I want to know if that's greater or above its moving average. So my logical operator is a greater than sign. And then to write the formula for a moving average, if you're new to the formula language, what you can do, or what I recommend that you do, is you access the formulas through the functions button over here on the right hand side. Now through this paste functions dialog here, over here on the right hand side, you can just start typing like MOV and you'll jump down to that formula. And so say for example, there's the moving average, that's the one that I want. And then down here at the bottom, I want to make sure that I have a check mark in both of these boxes, because then when I click on OK, that'll actually paste it right in there for me. And as you can see, I actually pasted it right over the other part that I started to write, but we'll go ahead and fill this out here first, because this is the formula for the moving average. So what this is saying, that in order to write the formula for a moving average, it needs to start off with the word MOV, open parenthesis, and then the date array. And that just means, do you want the moving average to be of the open, the high, the low, the close, whatever it is that you want. I'm going to use the close. And then for the time periods, I want to use 30 periods. And then these are the different types of moving averages. We have E for exponential, S for simple, T is time series, TRI is triangular, VAR is variable, W is weighted, and VOL is volume adjusted. So I'm going to put the letter E, and then I'm going to close that off with a parenthesis. So our first formula right here is just move, close, comma 30, comma E. So this is a 30-period exponential moving average of the closing price. Now, what I want to know is I want to know how when the moving average is above the closing price. So I'm going to write close is greater than that moving average. So there's our first formula right there. Okay, so this is going to identify when the closing price is above that red line. Now, for the bearish side, I want to do the exact opposite. I want to identify when the closing price is below the moving average. So in this case, what I'll do is I'll just make a copy of that formula and then go down to the bearish side. And the only thing I need to do here is just reverse that logical operator to a less than. So now that it reads the close is less than or lower than its moving average. Now, to control what that ribbon's going to look like, over here on the right-hand side, I'm going to click on the ribbon button. And here I can choose how that ribbon's going to be displayed, whether or not I even want to display it, whether I want to have vertical lines in my chart. So in this example, I don't want to have the vertical lines displayed, so I'm going to unselect that. And then down here, you'll see it says bullish is going to be green and labeled bullish, bearish is red and labeled bearish. And then we also have a third category, neutral. And neutral just means that if the formula doesn't meet either the bullish or the bearish condition, we could possibly have a neutral situation. But in this case, we're not going to, because we're only looking to see if the close is above or below a single moving average. Okay, so I'll click on OK. And let's take a look at it. I'll click on OK, and then we need to attach it to our chart. So down here at the bottom, I'll click on Attach. We'll close down this dialog. And then down here at the bottom, now you'll see I've got this ribbon displayed. And what I want to do at this point here is that I want to grab my crosshairs here. And this is where you kind of need to look at this thing with almost like underneath a microscope. And you need to make sure that when the closing price is above that moving average, that ribbon is then bullish and labeled as is green and then labeled bullish. And then vice versa, when those closing prices drop down below that moving average, then that ribbon turns to red and then is labeled bearish. So once we've got that and we're happy with it, that's our first part of this expert advisor. So we're good there. So next, what I want to do is I want to do the second part of this, and I want to look for some type of swing trades in that overall trend. Now, again, there's a lot of different types of indicators that we could possibly use for this particular situation, but a very basic one, very easy to understand, and one that demonstrates very well is just a MACD. MACD is made up of 3 different moving averages, and you'll see 2 different lines on your chart, and again, like I say, it's really easy to determine what's happening with it. So how I'm going to have this displayed is I'm going to color code my price bars based on the MACD. When the MACD is bullish, I'll color code my price bars to be green, and when it's bearish, I'll color code my price bars to be red. So let's go ahead and do that next. All right, so first of all, I want to go ahead and plot the MACD here on my chart. So again, from my quick list, I'm just going to drag it up here to the top and just plot it just separately like this. So here's our MACD. The MACD itself is actually the solid red line, and then this dotted line is the trigger or the signal line. And in actually what this is just a 9-period exponential moving average of the solid line. So what we're going to do here to identify bullish and bearish conditions is I just want to know when that solid line is above the dotted line here. Okay, so that's my next step that I need to add to my expert advisor. So to do that, I'll open up the expert advisor again, and this time I'll just click on the edit button. And now I want to go to this tab up here at the top, which is called the highlights, because this is going to allow me to color code the price bars. So step 1 is I'm going to click on the new button, and I'm going to give it a name, and I'm just going to call this bullish MACD. Okay, and we'll color code this one to be maybe like a green, and then the condition we need to put in our formula. So again, what we're going to do here is I want to identify where the solid line is above the dotted line. The solid line is identified in the formula language as just MACD, open and close parentheses. Now, when you're, just a quick note here, when you grab a formula from the functions library and it pastes in and it just has an open and closed set of parentheses like that, and it's not asking you for any type of input for the periods or the date array or anything like that, that just means that it has everything that it needs in order for it to be calculated. So in this case, just MACD open and close parentheses is going to give us the value of that solid line. Now the dotted line is a moving average of the solid line. So to do a moving average of that solid line or of the MACD itself, we need to write that as MOV, open parenthesis, in our data array this time, instead of the word close, for example, this is going to be the MACD, open and close parenthesis, followed by a comma, and then how many periods we want to use for this moving average. The dotted line is a 9-period exponential moving average of the solid line. So that's going to be a 9 followed by a comma, then the E, and then close the whole thing off with a parenthesis. So move MACD, comma 9, comma E. That's a 9-period exponential moving average of the MACD itself. Okay. Now what I want to know is when the MACD itself is greater or above that dotted line. So I'm going to put the logical operator or a greater than sign in between there. So now my formula reads the MACD is greater than its moving average. So when that's true, that's going to color code my price bars to be green. So I'm going to make a copy of this formula now, and I'm just going to check it. We'll click on OK. We'll click on OK, and let's just see what it looks like. We'll click on Close, and there we go. And we've got some changes happening here on our chart. And now what's happening is the price bars themselves are changing color. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. So let's kind of zoom in here for just a second here, and I'll just grab this little section of our chart. Again, with my crosshairs here, I just want to make sure that these price bars turn green when that solid line goes up above that dotted line like that, okay? And so you can see that it stayed green all the way up until this bar right here, and that looks like on December 2nd. And that's right where the MACD crossed down below its signal line, and for that reason the bars turn back to black. So again, that's perfect. That's exactly what I'm looking for it to do. So now once we kind of have that working the way that we want it, now what we can do is we can set it up for the bearish side. So to do that, I'll go back into my expert here again. I'll open it back up, and so I already made a copy of that formula. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on New, and I'm just going to call this bearish MACD, and I'm going to color code this one to be red, and then I'm just going to paste in that formula. And the only thing I really need to do is I just need to make this greater than sign a less than sign. So now it reads the MACD is less or lower than its moving average. And when that's true, that's going to color code our price bars to be red. So we'll click on OK, and again, click on Close. All right, so now again, you can see here our price bars where the MACD dropped down below that signal line or below its moving average. You can see our price bars now have turned to red. So we've got two things happening. We've got our ribbon down here at the bottom based off of this 30-period moving average. And then we got our price bars changing color based on the value of the MACD, okay? All right, next, let's add the third prong to this idea, and that is let's pinpoint some entries and exits. And again, there's a lot of different ways we can go with this, but I'm going to try to keep it, again, fairly simple, and I'm just going to use a standard stochastic to do this. And with a stochastic, as you know, you can put in whatever time periods you want, but I'm going to use all the defaults here. And the way that I'm going to have this displayed is I'm going to have it plot buy and sell arrows directly on the chart when we get a buy signal there off the stochastic. So let's go ahead and add that to it. So first of all, I'll grab the stochastic from my drop-down list, and I'm going to scroll down here and find the stochastic oscillator. And I'll drag it here into a new part of my window here. And again, I'm just going to use my default settings of 533. We'll click on OK, and that'll plot it. All right. And let me go ahead and I'm going to shrink these windows up just so we can see this one here a little bit better. All right. Let's just stop here for just a second. Let's just talk here a little bit about this stochastic. With any type of indicator that you have inside the program, there's numerous ways to actually identify the different types of signals. Hands down, the most popular way that people use a stochastic oscillator is they're looking for it to actually move above and below extreme levels. So for example, like when the stochastic drops down below this lower level here, is basically saying that the stochastic is oversold and there's a chance that prices might move up after there. And then vice versa, when the price or the stochastic moves up above this upper extreme level and then crosses back down, that's saying that the indicator is actually overbought, and there's a good chance that the prices might move lower from that time. So that's just one way that you can interpret it, but that's the most common. Another thing you could do is you could look for patterns. You can look for, increasing highs, decreasing highs, increasing lows. You can look for divergences. I mean, again, it just goes on and on. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to look for the crossing of these two different lines here. Kind of like with the MACD signals, I want to know when that solid line crosses up above that dotted line. I want to know when it goes up, and I also want to know when it crosses down. And I'm going to totally ignore whether it's above this upper line or down below this lower line. I just am going to look for those crossing points here. And kind of like with the MACD, this solid red line is the stochastic itself, but the dotted line is a moving average of the solid line. In this case, the dotted line is a 3-period simple moving average of the solid line. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for these very specific crossing points where they're crossing each other. All right, so we're going to go back into our expert advisor here again. And this time I'm going to go up here to the top and I'm going to choose a symbols tab, because this is where I can put specific buy and sell signals here on my chart. So I'm going to create two different symbols, a stochastic buy signal and a stochastic sell signal. So I'll click on the new button and we'll give it a name, and I'm just going to call this my stochastic buy signal. And my condition for this one, I'm going to show you another function, and this is a function that I use a lot, and I think it's a super handy function. You can use it for a lot of different cases. But what it is, it's called the cross function. And the cross function is written like this. It's written as cross, open parenthesis, and then data array number 1, followed by a comma, and then data array number 2. And then that's closed off with a parenthesis. And how this works is whatever you put in the place of data array number 1 is the item that is going to be higher than the item that's in data array number 2. And what I mean by that is if I'm looking for that solid line, if I want to know when that solid line is going up above the dotted line, I want to put the value of that solid line in the place of data array number 1, and I want to put the value of that dotted line in the place of data array number 2. Okay? And by doing this, and if you do it correctly, then of course it'll identify those specific points. So to do that, I'm going to write that as cross, open parenthesis, and the first formula I'm going to put in here is the value of the solid line, and that's just the standard stochastic. And that's written as STOCH, and then the parameters that you want to use. But if you just want to use the default parameters, it's 5 and 3. Okay? And then for data array number 2, this is a moving average of the stochastic. So to write that one, that's going to be written as MOV, open parenthesis, and this is going to be a moving average of the stochastic. And again, it's going to be a 5-3, followed by a comma, and then how many periods you want to use in the moving average. And by default, it's a 3-period simple moving average. So I'm going to put a comma and then an S and then close the whole thing off with a parenthesis at the very end. All right, and let me just kind of get rid of this. Now, let me show you one other thing here too. Well, let me just explain this just real quick, make sure you understand what you're looking at. This says cross stochastic, comma, moving average of the stochastic. So what this is going to identify is where that solid line goes up above that dotted line. Now, when you're writing formulas like this and you're plugging them in, if you click on OK, if you make a mistake, you're going to get the program's actually going to try to help you identify where the mistake might be. So in this case, it's saying that I'm missing a parenthesis. So I'll click on OK, and you'll see my cursor is now flashing at the very end here because it's saying that's where you need the parenthesis. So I'll put my parenthesis at the very end, and then if I click on OK and it goes away, then I know that I did it correctly. All right. So let me go back. I'm going to go ahead and select it again. I'm going to click on the Edit button, and to control what that signal is going to look like, if you go up here to the very top and you click on this graphic tab up here at the top, you can choose what's going to be displayed. So for example, in this case, I'm just going to use an upward pointing buy arrow here. And I want the size to be large. We'll make the color green. And I'm going to put a label of buy there. So, and then underneath here, under the symbol position, label position, I'm going to put it below the price plot and below the symbol so that it looks like this over here on the right-hand side, and the price bar will be above that, okay? So let's take a look and see what that looks like and make sure we did it correctly. So I'll click on OK, and we'll go ahead and close this down. And as you can see, we've got a ton of buy signals here on our chart. All right, so what I want to do is I want to take a close look here and make sure that these things are giving me buy signals where I think they should be. And the idea is that I want to know where that solid line is going up above that dotted line, and I should get a buy signal exactly at that point. And that's kind of an interesting point about the expert advisor. The thing to keep in mind too is that the signals will pop up exactly on the bar that it gets triggered. I know a lot of people newer to the program get a little confused when they start plotting signals from the system tester and there's a time delay and so forth. One of the big differences with the expert advisor, you'll get the signals as soon as it gets the data and it meets the criteria. So in this case, it crossed up right there, crossed right there, crossed right there. That looks good. That looks good. It looks like it's doing exactly what I want, and that's what I was hoping for. Okay. So now, as you can see again, we've got a lot of signals here, but let's go ahead and keep pushing forward here, and let's get our sell signals on here at the same time. So I know that this formula is working correctly, so I can make a copy of this, and then I can paste it into the sell signal, and I get a little bit of a shortcut there. So let's go back into our expert advisor here again, and I'll click on the edit button, and I'm going to open that up, and I'm just going to make a copy of this formula. Cancel out of here, and then let's go ahead and create a sell signal. So I'll click on the new button, and I'm going to call this my stochastic sell signal, and I'll paste in my condition or the formula. Now the difference is this time I want to identify where that solid line is going down below that dotted line. So for my cross function, the item that is higher goes in the first slot or the first data array, and the item that's lower goes in the second slot or the second data array. So in this case, the moving average is going to be higher than the stochastic itself, so I need to reverse these. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut that out, and I'm going to go ahead and put a comma, and then I'm going to put my stochastic in there. Okay. So now this is going to identify where the stochastic is crossing down below its moving average there. Now to identify what that's going to look like, I'll click on the graphic up here at the top, and I'll choose a downward pointing or a sell arrow. We'll make the size large, and I'll color code it to be red. And this time I'm going to go ahead and put a cell in there, but I want the symbol above the price plot, and I also want the label above the symbol, so it looks like this over here on the right hand side, and this time the price bar will be below both of those. So I'll click on OK, and let's take a look at that. I'll click on close, and now we've got a ton of buy signals, we've got a ton of sell signals, because what this is doing is just identifying where these two lines are crossing here. That's all it's doing. So we've got our three different conditions happening here all at the same time. We've got a ribbon down here at the very bottom that's identifying what the closing price is doing in relation to the moving average. We have our prices bars actually changing color based on the value of the MACD itself. And that is when the MACD is above its trigger line, the price bars are green in color, and when the MACD drops down below its trigger line, the price bars are red in color. And then finally, we got our buy and sell signals, which are based off the crossing points of the stochastic. So that's all good, but actually where this really starts to become more powerful is when you start to combine these different types of indicators together. So that's what I want to do next. I only want to get a buy signal when all three conditions are being met. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's hang on for just one second. Let me get back to my PowerPoint here. And again, what I want to do is I want to combine my overall trend with the swing indicator along with the stochastic at the same time. That's what I'm hoping to do here. So we'll go back into our chart here. And let's go back into our expert advisor. Now, if you've gone this far and you've created these different formulas and they are working, for example, and they are giving you the different sell signals and so forth, right? Well, then you've done 99% of the work. All you really need to do now is grab those different formulas that you've already created, and then we're going to put them all into one big formula, okay? So to do that, I'm going to go back over here to my Trends tab. And this is the two formulas that are identifying my bullish and bearish conditions of my ribbon. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to grab this first formula here underneath the bullish section. I'll make a copy of that. And I'm going to go back to my symbols tab here and open up my stochastic buy signal here. And this is where I'm going to put all the formulas into one. So first thing I want to do is I want to change the name of this. This is no longer going to be just a stochastic buy signal, but instead it's going to be a combination. So I'll just call it my combo buy signal. So for my condition, I'll go ahead and paste in my formula. And here you'll see I've got my two different formulas here. I got the close is above its moving average, and I've got the stochastic crossing up above its moving average. Now, again, if I click on OK at this point, this thing's going to bark at me and saying, you're basically asking it two different things. You're asking it two different formulas. It wants to know how you want to possibly combine these formulas, and it's looking for some type of logical operator. So what I want to do here is I want to put the word "and" at the in between these two formulas, because I want to know when both of these items are actually true. Okay, we'll click on OK, and again, if it goes away, then I know that I did it correctly. So that'll add two of the conditions. That'll set it up to two conditions, but now I want to add that third condition. So I'm going to go to my highlights tab, and I'm going to grab the formula from my bullish MACD, and I'll make a copy of that. Click on OK, and I'll go to my symbols tab here again. And this time I'll go ahead and paste that in. And one more time, I need to put the "and" logical operator at the end of it. So now I've got my three conditions. I got the close above its moving average, the MACD above its moving average, and finally the stochastic is crossing up above its moving average. So let's click on OK. Now watch what happens here is that I made the change here to the buy signals, and you can see over here on the right hand side we're in a downtrend here. It looks like in April and May and so forth on this chart. If we did this correctly, those buy signals should go away because we are definitely not in an upward trend at that point. So I'll click on OK and click on close, and there you go, and you can see we lost all those buy signals because we weren't in an upward trend there. So vice versa, what I want to do, I also want to do the same thing for the sell side there too. I want to combine those same conditions, because when I'm in an upward trend like this, I don't want to be getting a ton of sell signals in an upward trend like this. So to do that, we'll go back into it again, and we'll follow the exact same thing, but the difference is I'm just going to grab all the bearish formulas that I've already created. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my bearish formula down here, which is just the long-term moving average. I'll go to my symbols tab, and we'll open up our stochastic sell signal, and you can just double click on it. You don't have to click on the edit button, and that'll open up your editor here. And this time again, I'm going to change that to my combo sell signal, and we'll paste that formula in and put the word "and" at the end. So now it's reading the close is below its moving average and the stochastic is crossing down below its moving average. We'll click on OK, and then we'll add one more criteria to it. We're going to go to the highlights tab, and I'm going to go to the bearish MACD, and I'm going to grab that formula and do the same thing. I'll click on OK. I'm going to go to my symbols tab, go to my sell signal, and then again paste that in. All right, put my logical operator at the end. So I've got my three criteria, and we'll just take a quick look at it. The close is below its moving average, the MACD is below its moving average, and the stochastic is crossing down below its moving average. We'll click on OK, click on OK, and same thing. Now over here on the left hand side, during this upward move, if we did this correctly, we should get rid of a lot of those sell signals. So I'll click on close, and there we go. So now what we've got here is we've got confirmation here. We've got all three conditions lining up to the upside when we're in an upward trend. We got all three situations lining up in a downward trend. And I'll go ahead and get rid of these other indicators here. And what's nice about this is that once you've created something like this, then of course, then you can apply it to anything else that you want. So let's say, for example, I want to apply this to maybe like, you know, Coke or something like that. So I'll jump over here to Coke and see what that looks like. And there you go. And you can kind of see the different signals here during the upward trend. You've got some sell signals here. Looks pretty good. Let's draw. There's another one here I want to show you, is Procter & Gamble. I'll jump over here to this one. This one has a nice kind of like little roller coaster going on and some nice little trends moving there as well. So the nice thing about this is that once you create this, you can apply this to anything you want, any time frame you want, and you'll be able to line up all your signals like this. Now, one question that that comes up a lot when I've shown this to other people in the past is they want to know if it's possible to get rid of these other signals here that follow the initial one. And the answer is absolutely. There is a way to remove it so you only get the first signal at the very beginning of the move, and it gets rid of all the other signals. And if you want to learn how to do that, I have a video on it. It's under my Formula Writing 3 class, and I'll walk you through step by step of exactly how to do that, how to remove all the signals that you don't want anymore. All right. So, hope that was helpful. I know that that's a lot of information, but thank you for sticking through this. And again, like I say, I know we've got a number of different types of users here in the crowd here tonight, but I just want to give you a quick blurb here on my services. Our website again is learnmetastock.com, and if you go to the home page there, you'll see I've got a number of tabs across the top here. But for example, if you click on this live classes tab right here, this will show you my schedule here for each week. Every week we do 3 live classes per week on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and we do them at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And we do them on a variety of classes. I mean, it's always rotating to different subjects and so forth. But for example, like this class, we did MetaStock Advanced. We did today we did the Expert Advisor Advanced, and then tomorrow we're doing a Formula Writing 3 class. And then if you can't make the live classes, that's okay. You can then go to the video library again up here at the top. And here you'll find that we've got over 100 different videos and training recordings available here for you on just about every subject inside of MetaStock that you can pretty much imagine. If you're brand new to technical analysis, you'll definitely want to start with like the introduction to technical analysis. And if you're new to MetaStock, make sure and take a look at all the MetaStock videos. These are just a few of them, but I don't know how many we have in there, but quite a few. I just grabbed a few different screenshots here, but we have videos, for example, just on system testing, just on the Explorer, formula writing. We've got, I think, 4 different videos on the RMO. I've got 5 different videos just on using stops inside the program and creating your own custom stops. We've got, I don't know how many videos on indicators, and we've got another whole group just on trading strategies. And the trading strategies, these are pretty good. I mean, what we do with these is we'll take like an article, for example, like Stocks and Commodities is a really good source. We'll take an article from there and we'll show you exactly how to duplicate that particular trading strategy. And when we do that, I also create all the formulas so you can download them directly into your program as well. So I can save you a massive amount of time there in that section. And in addition to that, we also do product reviews. And we've, as you know, MetaStock has a ton of different add-ons. And if you need some more help, or if you want, a third party to kind of look at them and show you how they operate, that might be helpful for you as well. Now, if you're interested in signing up for our service, what you can do is just go back to the home page on Learn MetaStock, and if you scroll down to the bottom of that page there, you'll see that you've got a few different choices of how to sign up. But if you click on this first one underneath this premium subscription here, this will take you out to our registration page. And what we have going on right now, which is in conjunction with MetaStock, is that we have a special going on where if you buy the first month of our training, you'll get 2 additional months for free. The normal price for our training is $99 a month, but underneath this special, you pay the first month at $99, you get 2 additional months, so you get all 3 months for a total of $99, and for that you get access to everything that we have on our site. So And of course, I'm more than happy to help you, with whatever type of things that you need. And one other thing I do want to talk about too is I also have a lot of questions about private training, and that is, do I offer any type of specific like one-on-one training? The answer is absolutely. I also offer one-on-one training, and these are 90-minute sessions. And what these are is they're customized exactly to what you need. And what I do is I'll meet with you typically 3 to 5 days before we have our session to find out exactly what you need help with. Maybe you need help with writing formulas or system testing, or maybe just figuring out how to put this whole thing together to make it more usable for yourself. But I can really streamline your learning curve, to say the least. And once we kind of figure that out, then we'll host this session. And what's nice about that is then I'll use a live classroom like what we're looking at, or what we're using like right now, where we can see each other's computer screens. So the entire time I'll be working on your computer screen. And so that way, if we create any formulas, make any changes, maybe create some templates or layouts, they'll be on your machine at the end of the session. You'll have everything when we're done. And in addition to that, I also record the session, and then I give you a copy of the recording. And I find that that's also really helpful too, because more often than not, we are going through a lot of information, and just having the ability to go back and refresh your memory and just say, oh man, how did I create that template, or how did we do that during the session? Now you'll have access to it through the recording. So the price for that is I charge $150 for this session. And for somebody who needs to really streamline their learning curve, this is an excellent way to do it. So that's what I have here for you tonight. I hope that that was helpful. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the time back over to Jeff. Let's see, Jeff, you there? I don't know if he's there or not, but let's see.
Oh, I just said hello.
Hey, Jeff.
There's a mute button on this microphone, and it was depressed.
Yeah.
Anyway, do you want to take 2 questions? We have 2 questions.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm just kind of looking to see. Can you just tell me just real quick again where I would see the question?
How about I read it to you?
Okay, that'll work too.
Caesar says, how do we use this for explorations and scanning? I can answer that one if you want me to.
Yeah, go for it.
So any of the stuff that he showed is what's going to be a true-false type of a condition. It's either true or it's false. And so if you want to incorporate that into a scan, what you do is you right-click on the exploration button, you click on New Exploration, and let's say you wanted to filter out anything that didn't meet that criteria, where it was the signal was above the moving average, or the combo signal, or anything you showed today, really. All you would do is you'd take that same formula and put it in the Filter tab for the exploration. So that's how you would use pretty much any of the formula sets that he showed today in an exploration or in a scan.
Yeah, that's a great question, because the nice thing about this is kind of once you get up to speed to this and you create a formula, for example, like what I was showing you tonight for the expert advisor, that's giving you a specific signal on your chart. But a lot of this stuff, like Jeff was saying, is you just copy that formula and you paste it into some of the other power tools. Maybe might even want a system test on it, or like you said, do an exploration, whatever it is. You can copy and paste these formulas and basically be up and running that much quicker.
Charles Kaiko wants your personal email address.
There it is, admin@learnmetastock.com.
Yeah, he does. I can tell you that's the email I use for him. So it'll work, and he's very responsive.
Yep, absolutely.
Do you have any final thoughts?
No, I just want to say thanks again. I appreciate everybody coming in, and as always, if there's any questions, ideas or suggestions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Thank you very much.
Charles, yes, I will confirm that. You can write a scanner using the same code. Now, all the code he showed you today pretty much returns either a true or false. So where you would put that code is in the go in and create a new scanner, and you'd use the same code. It isn't utilizing the expert advisor per se, but what you're utilizing is the same code that he used for the expert advisor. So that seems like all the questions that we've got. I want to say thanks for coming, guys. I thought this was a very, very informative class. I hope you thought so too. If you have any comments, feel free to email me, and as always, thanks for coming, and I'll see you at the next class. Jack says, thank you, I'm signing up for the class. Thank you, Jack. I'd encourage you to do that. It's as you can tell, Kevin's a very, very good teacher. And so go ahead and get signed up. Thanks, guys.
Thanks
We'll see you
again.
at the next class.